to me a little bit about what happened that made you seek the services.
Yes. So I am a former resident of URI, and I think, just not to backtrack, but one of the reasons why I believe that we're seeing a uptick, and there will probably continue to be one, is because a lot of times when we talk about domestic violence, we talk about the hospital bed. We talk about when it's very extreme. And so a lot of times people don't even recognize that they're in a violent situation until it's at that point where your life is, threatened. But not realizing that raising your voice, controlling behavior, controlling the finances. There are so many different red flags, if you would, that if we start to destigmatize the conversation around domestic violence and what that looks like, and we actually address all of the unhealthy interactions we have, then we can see more people get help sooner. So for myself, I was in a tumultuous situation, a relationship that I didn't see as being bad. I thought, hey, I'm just, very desired, if you would.
Yeah, you thought it was some form of
it was flattering at first, right? It was flattering at first to be jealous or controlling and these things. And then when it got to a certain point, I was noticing that I couldn't make excuses for certain behaviors. And I wasn't able to stay in my home anymore, and my life was threatened, and these, things occurred. And so in that, I found myself relocating to New York, thinking that I had enough saved up that I could just get me an apartment, and that did not happen. So I found myself going to PATH through the PATH program. In that, I didn't even classify myself as a domestic violence survivor because I still was like, I didn't end up in the hospital.
Yeah, it didn't get so bad, so why would I consider myself
Of course, he threatened my life, but, I wasn't hospitalized, so I don't classify as such. But everyone that I told my story to, they classified me as DV 2 and 1 because I had 2 children and was 1 adult. And we had Coco, our dog. So through the Mayor's Alliance, I was told about Urban Resource Institute, which I was shocked that it even existed, but she told me not to get my hopes up, right, because they may not have space for me.
There was such a need.
Yes, they had a space come available that was perfect for me, and the rest is kind of history. It was something I didn't even find imaginable, yet obtainable. So it was great.
And Hope, I know that your story, one of the things that you do, in a sense to pay it forward, and I have to believe it's cathartic for you, is that you share your story with other women. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes. So I realized when I was getting ready to transition out of Urban Resource Institute, there was actually some of the staff who asked me, have you considered speaking? And I thought, I don't do that. That's not my thing,
Yes, you do. I can tell you in the few minutes before this interview started, yes, you do.
Well, I mean, honestly, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, In those moments when you think about losing everything, you lose your sight of yourself in some regards also, because it's like, who am I that this is now my life, And so when they told me about it, was a seed that was planted. It never left my mind. And so they had an event that was coming up, and I got an invitation to speak, and I said, you know what, I'll do it. And then when I got up, I actually met a part of myself that I didn't know existed. And it was one of the most beautiful exchanges I've had internally, and it also helped me to heal the more I talked about it. And so as I was healing through sharing my story, I wanted to empower other people, women, men, whoever experiences, violent or maybe even not domestic violence, but other traumas, I wanted to help them to see that through sharing, it doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you vulnerable, it actually empowers you, and it helps you to empower somebody else. And so that's why I use my voice wherever I can to help. I
want to ask you about your children.
Yes.
Do you see how they may have been impacted by this situation, and how have you dealt with that, and has URI helped you in that regard?
Yes, that is the hardest part. I think for me, it was difficult, but knowing that I had essentially let the boogeyman in to haunt my children and their dreams and their future, that was the most difficult thing to accept, right? And so when we went to URI, they did have resources available to where they could have counselors and, you know, people who would address their issues at their age and address my, you know, issues at my age and address Coco's issues at her age. But all of us, you know, had some help, but also seeing what was modeled around us, we were able to come into our home and we were able to communicate more freely about what we were feeling in that moment. And in a sense, we all left out of there, yeah, we still had the bruise, you know, like you have a scar, it hurts, it bleeds and all these things, and then it turns into a bruise. You don't feel it anymore, but it's still there. There was some residue, right? But we had been able to navigate it more healthily because we were in a place that was so peaceful, that was so comfortable, that was so much like home. It didn't, we were talking about how beautiful the spaces are, right? Automatically, there's a measure of shame and your head hanging low when you think you're going to have to go into the sheltering system. When you go into a URI facility, you're like, wait a minute, this is peaceful. This is home. Like, I don't have to lose my dignity, is the word that was used earlier.
Because I needed help.
Because now I need help. So automatically your positioning is like, okay, well, now I'm here. This is my home for now. I'm in a place that's peaceful. Now I can exhale. Now I can identify. Now I can heal. And that's what we were all able to do. And like I said, there's still residue, but you just continue the conversation.
You are truly a remarkable young woman.
Thank you.
And you have a story to tell, and you should keep yelling it from the rafters.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.